Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho. It is a brand new week this Monday. It is the 19th day of May, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. A new batch of senators have been officially declared over the weekend, and later this afternoon, the Commission on Elections is set to proclaim winning party list groups. President Bongbong Marcos admits the election outcome was not what he anticipated. Still, he urges everyone to focus beyond politics. PDEA discloses that over 60 billion pesos worth of illegal drugs have been seized under the Marcos administration. Stay tuned as we dive into this topic later in the program. The Commission on Elections is set to proclaim winning party list groups today, May 19. Comelec Chairman George Garcia explained they needed 1 day after the senatorial proclamation last Saturday to prepare the venue. The proclamation will be based on results from 175 certificates of canvass from across the Philippines and overseas. Akbayan topped the official tally for the 2025 midterm party list race with over 2.7 million voters. A total of 63 party list seats in Congress will be filled. A new set of senators has been formally proclaimed by the Commission on Elections over the weekend. Here is the report.
The Comelec proclaimed the 12 winning senators in Bilang Pilipino 2025 on Saturday. In her speech, re-electionist Senator Amy Marcos mentioned her family, including her mother, former First Lady Imelda Marcos, but not her brother, President Bongbong Marcos. She did acknowledge, though, former President Duterte and his daughter, Vice President Sara. Recall that Amy exited Bongbong's alyansa and was instead endorsed by Sara.
Sa inyong lahat ang tagumpay na ito, kahit gaano kailap at kahirap, ay isang katibayan na kapag ikaw ay nanindigan para sa tama, mananalo ka.
Next were Senators-elect Lito Lapid, Camille Villar, Pia Cayetano, Tito Soto, Ping Lacson, and Rodante Marcoleta. Kiko Pangilinan was not able to attend the proclamation due to his daughter's graduation. But in a statement, Pangilinan said he is ready to accept the mandate given to him. Senators-elect Erwin Tulfo and Bato de la Rosa have also been proclaimed. De la Rosa said his votes can be considered protest votes against the imprisonment of former President Duterte.
Nasaan ka man ngayon, President Duterte, sir, I dedicate this victory to you. Maraming salamat po. Also like to congratulate my Duterte PDP party mates for fighting a good fight. Natutunan ko sa inyo na pwede pala tayong mahalin ng taong bayan kahit wala tayong daladalang ayuda.
Senator-elect Bam Aquino, meanwhile, thanked his youth supporters.
Ito pong pagtakbong ito ay kakaiba talaga. No? Nagsimula po tayo napakalayo. Sa totoo lang po, wala ho tayo sa top 12. In fact, wala nga po tayo sa top 20 nung una po tayo nagsabi na tatakbo po tayo. Napakaraming volunteers, napakaraming kabataan na nagsuporta, lumabas, nagsalita, nag-post, nag-house to house, kaya po tayo umabot po dito.
This was followed by the proclamation of Senate race top-notcher Bongo. He thanked his mentor and inspiration, former President Duterte.
Huwag nating kalimutan ang kanyang mga sakripisyo para sa sambayanang Pilipino. Tinatandaan ko palagi ang sinasabi niya noon sa akin, just do what is right. Gawin lang ang tama at hindi ka magkakamali.
In ambush interviews following the proclamation, some senator-elects gave their comments on the impending impeachment trial of VP Sara.
Nakita ko kasi kung paano nila inilatag. Mali ang batayan, mali ang proseso. Kasama ako, di ba? So mula doon, alam ko na kung anong gagawin. Secret.
Palagay ko yung katibayan ang maghahari sa lahat. Wala pang paglilitis, wala pang pinapakitang ebidensya hanggang talagang magkaroon ng mga katibayan na makakapagkumbinsi sa atin, hindi naman maaaring magsalita.
Paano ka na-convict kung wala namang ebidensya? O napakawik ng ebidensya? Ngayon, paano ka mag-a-acquit kung napakatibay naman na ebidensya? So dapat evidence-based, lagi nakabase sa ebidensya.
Vice President Sara Duterte says she is prepared for her impeachment trial, declaring she wants a, quote, bloodbath. Duterte vowed to face the process head-on regardless of the outcome. She added that her legal team is now in, quote, full throttle, exploring all possible remedies to defend her case. The Vice President also said she has already made peace with whatever verdict the Senate may hand down. But according to her, it is too early to predict how senators will vote as they have yet to examine all evidence.
Lawyers, okay naman sila. Full throttle na yung kanilang preparations for the impeachment. As lawyers, alam naman natin ang galawan ng mga abogado, no? Marami silang mga paraan sa batas as a legal recourse for their clients. But sinabihan ko rin talaga sila, really, I truly want a trial because I want a bloodbath talaga.
4 sets of siblings will be part of the 20th Congress. Now, these include Erwin Tulfo, who placed 4th in the Bilang Pilipino 2025 senatorial race. He will join his brother, Senator Raffy Tulfo. Meanwhile, Camille Villar clinched a Senate seat after placing 10th. Her brother, Senator Mark Villar, still has 3 years left in his term. There are also incumbent sibling senators in the Senate. Now, these are Senator Pia Cayetano, who has been re-elected, and Senator Alan Peter Cayetano. The 4th set of siblings in the Senate are Senators J.V. Ejercito and Jinggoy Ejercito Estrada. They are half-brothers and sons of ousted President Erap Estrada. And to give us insights on the evolving landscape of Philippine governance, we have Cleve Arguelles, President and CEO of WR Numero Research, joining us via Zoom. Good morning to you, Cleve.
Good morning, Gretchen.
It looks like there you go. We have a video of you on Zoom. All right, let's go to the composition of the Senate. As we mentioned, there are 4 sets of siblings. We got the Villars, the Tulfos, Cayetanos, and the Ejercitos. What do you think are the implications of this concentration of power, and how will that influence the dynamic in the Senate?
This is definitely not a positive development for Philippine democracy as well as for our representative politics, because in a big nation like ours, and only a few families are and ended up having Senate seats, that means that, as you've mentioned, there's a concentration of power. But aside from power, what the senators should also be, or what should we also be worried about this this too many siblings in the Senate, is that ideally, of course, they would be able to represent a variety of interests, right? That could be sectoral interests, like, education issues, health issues, or even regional interests. And in a Senate with 24 members, you would want to maximize the diversity of the members so that issues are also can also be diverse. So now we can expect that diversity will be narrowed down a little bit, given that a lot of them come from the same family.
But I guess the main concern here is how they will be voting when it comes to legislation and when it comes to important issues like the upcoming impeachment trial. Do you think that they would vote in bunches?
Oh, that's something that I don't expect them to do. I think what traditional political families would usually do in this case is to split their vote, right? Just to make sure that if national public opinion changes, then either family can, has an advantage, right? So maybe one of the siblings will vote to acquit or convict, but we'll never know how the trial would really go. But there's this tradition, if not current practice among political dynasties, among political families, that they sometimes do not necessarily align politically, especially on controversial issues such as, for example, the impeachment trial.
Pagdating sa mga pamilya, what does this tell us about the voting preference of Filipinos? Is there a limit to putting family members in politics? Like, for example, with the Tulfos, 2 yung nahalal, pero si Ben nalaglag. Meron bang gano'n na parang, may research ba kayo that tells us there's a limit to this and why we actually vote for members of the same family in politics?
Right. Well, there are structural reasons, but also reasons specific to our voters. So, we actually run a survey in March 2024, and what we found is that for many Filipinos, it's quite acceptable that dynasties are elected into power. So, majority of our Filipino voters do not think that it's a problem that we elect dynasties into power, and I think this is one of the biggest arguments being made by dynastic politicians themselves. But the other interesting point or data in this particular survey is that we've also learned that Filipino voters do change their opinion depending on what types of political dynasties there are. So as you know, as for example in the Senate, you have two family members serving at the same time, but the other type of dynasties, there are other types wherein they succeed each other in one position. So for example, mayor position or governor position succeeding each other, or they could be serving at the same time as well, but in different positions. So someone is a mayor and then a relative is a congressman or a vice mayor, and then this different kinds of dynamics. And it appears that for Filipinos, the least acceptable type of dynasties is is a dynasty that serves together in the Senate. And that might explain what happened to Ben Tulfo. It probably was a last minute decision on the part of our voters, that they realized that they don't have to send two Tulfos to the Senate, and that would give us three members coming from the same family. So this has nothing to do with their leadership competence or assessing their capacity as senators, but rather the acceptability for Filipino voters has just something to do with the idea that it's just too much in a 24 member legislative body to have three, for example, or more than two coming at the same time.
Maybe because it's a lot more competitive in the Senate, given there are only 24 seats up for grabs as compared to, let's say, the local government, where it is being framed as family members helping out each other, making it easier to govern, right? But I wanna get your insight on this. I mean, do the latest results say that political dynasties are more acceptable than celebrities running for office?
Right. I think this has something to do more with the structural reasons of why dynasties perpetuate, right? So, for example, in a Senate race, it's always going to be, a question of national level awareness, and dynasties do have an advantage uh, because they're known nationally in terms of their political family names, right? You could argue the same for celebrities, right? But I guess that the changing media landscape may actually be changing also how advantageous is a celebrity background for a candidate is, right? I mean, traditionally, a decade ago, celebrities with TV background would have a definite advantage coming into a particular race, even in the Senate, right? But I don't think you can say the same now, wherein media landscape, it's much more fragmented, right? Of course, a sizable number of Filipinos are still on television, but you also have other competing sources of media use now. So you have digital, for example, and then social media is playing a big role. So I don't think that it's a similar landscape in the past. So now celebrities cannot assume that they have that automatic advantage when they run for a Senate seat compared to in the past. That's what I'm seeing here.
We have a more leveled playing field as celebrities lose their edge to digital, to the personalities who have gone viral on social media, I guess. I wanted to take a look at the statement of Sara Duterte. She said that she wants a bloodbath for the upcoming impeachment trial. Is this her declaring her confidence over the result, given the composition of the Senate? How do you read into that?
Yeah, definitely between the past Senate and the incoming one, the new one. I definitely think that this renewed optimism and this renewed optimism on the part of the vice president is fueled by the fact that more allies of the vice president are coming into the Senate. So I think that definitely, if you compare the two senates, there's a more opportunity and a clearer pathway for her acquittal with the entry of new allies. And I think it's just coming from that. Not to mention that his allies, her allies, not only got into the Senate and won the elections, but they won with a sizable number of support, right? So that could also explain the optimism and the this latest statement of Inday Sara.
Okay, what is your forecast over the factions and alignments in the Senate?
This is what we're watching out for right now. I think that the Duterte bloc, if we may call it them that way, right? I think that they will play a big role in choosing who the Senate president will be and how the Senate leadership will look like. So because just of the numbers that they have, right? And although, for example, you have returning senators Bam Aquino and Kiko Pangilinan also coming into the Senate, and will also play a big role in choosing the Senate leadership. I would expect that they will probably choose to be in the minority with Senator Risa Ontiveros, just because of their advocacies and their political positions on, for example, just the very big issue of Marcos Duterte infighting, right? So they probably wouldn't. Because of that, because of these senators choosing to be in the minority, or could be expected to be in the minority, then the Dutertes, I think, will play a big role in choosing who the Senate leadership will be.
Okay, how many are you expecting under that Duterte bloc? What is the number?
Yeah. So around 8 to 9 on my last count, you have more reliable members of the Duterte bloc, of course, Senator Robin Padilla, for example, and re-election is Senator Bongo, Senator De La Rosa. Then then of course the new senator, Congressman Rodante Marcoleta. But you also an open question, but likely to be siding with the Dutertes would be the Nationalista bloc. So you have Camille Villar, for example, coming into the Senate. I think Pia Cayetano is also with the Nationalista. It's the last time, right? That she ran. So that would also that would definitely also play a role, right? How these nationalistas, we have an understanding that Camille, for example, was endorsed by the vice president, so she's likely going to side with them at least for the Senate leadership issue.
You got Amy Marcos as well, right?
Yes.
Siding with Sara Duterte. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's about 7 that I'm counting there. This is where it comes in, I guess, no? If Pia Cayetano is with Nacionalista, where is his brother, Alan Peter? Do you expect him to go this way? Or, gaya na sabi mo kanina, you expect them to balance it out?
Yeah. So, well, Alan, I think the last time I checked, has declared himself independent in terms of party affiliations, or at least the last time he ran. But he made latest pronouncements, right, regarding the arrest of the former president, the ICC arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte. So you would also assume that at this time, he has more affinity with the Dutertes on these particular issues, and I think so. It's likely, right, that he may go for them for the Senate leadership.
I believe they need a number of 9 to be able to have an acquittal for VP Sara. How about Tito Soto and Ping Lacson? I mean, they are medyo mas centrist yung dating nila, no? But where do you expect them, or what could convince them to vote one way or another?
So, yeah, so we expect them to be, of course, likely to be more pro-conviction given that they're part of the admin allies. But I don't think that's a settled issue. They're likely to be more a swing vote, I think. Sense that, well, for one, Tito Soto has the Nationalist People's Coalition, the NPC, so he has his own bloc in the Senate. So Senator Legarda, for example, is also NPC. But so I think that these swing senators are those senators that will rely mostly on how public opinion will develop as a result of the once the trial starts, in the sense that especially for Tito Sen and Ping Lacson, all of our senators are considered presidents and vice presidents in waiting, and therefore they're sensitive to national public opinion. If they have 2028 ambitions, if they're re-electionists in 2028, for example, these electoral incentives will definitely play a role in how they will conduct themselves in the trial.
Well, both have spent a long time already in public service. It seems to me that they could be also focused on cementing their political legacies. Could that also play a huge role in this?
Yes, and in by tradition as well, veteran senators, those who are more senior in the Senate, tend to be more statesman-like, right? Or at least they identify themselves more statesman in the sense that they do want to come out as independent and as someone who's has really weighed the evidence. And actually, in our last week of April survey, 50% of Filipinos do want the senator judges to base their decision on the evidence. So if we're seeing, if they will be basing their votes on public opinion, and I think there's an incentive as well to play the statesman-like role, right? Given that most Filipinos expect them to also use the evidence in the trial as the basis of how they will vote.
Okay, because I only have time for one more question, I wanted to ask you, how do you think the 3 years, the final 3 years of President Bongbong Marcos will look like? Will this be influenced heavily by the purview of 2028, the presidential elections? To get legislation done, what would be crucial for the president to be able to, have a good run for his final 3 years?
So yeah, definitely I think 2028 will play a big role. It will be hanging above the heads of everyone in Malacanang and in Congress. As much as I don't want that, right? As a citizen, I do want them to focus on their duties first, but that's how the electoral incentives will work. In terms of the legislative agenda, I think the first order of business is to win the Senate leadership issue. If this goes, if the Senate leadership contest, for example, is decided on the favor of Marcos opposition, not his allies, then you know what the 3 years will look like, right? It will be hard for them to make the Senate work with the president's legislative agenda. The good thing is that the House appears to be safer. There are rumors that there might be changes in the House leadership. But the numbers, if you just look at the numbers, you would still expect that the president will have a strong influence in the legislative conduct of the House. It's the Senate who's going to be more challenging than usual.
More the bigger battlefield. But as you mentioned, no, tama ka, no, si Pulong pinapatakbo ni Sara Duterte as House Speaker. It seems there is a challenge over in the House, but as you mentioned, dito tayo magtutuon ng maglalagay ng pansin sa Senado. Okay, maraming salamat sa iyo for your insights today and for the wonderful discussion on the aftermath of the 2025 midterm elections. We have Cleve Arguelles, President and CEO of WR Numero Research.
Thank you, Gretchen. Good morning.
Morning. Well, don't go away. We'll be back with more right after the break. Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho, and here on Morning Matters, we talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. PDEA reports that illegal drugs valued at over 60 billion pesos were confiscated under the current administration. Now, according to PDEA, more than 15,200 kilos of shabu, cocaine, and marijuana were seized since July 2022. Up to 145,000 people, including around 9,000 high-value suspects, were arrested in more than 107,000 anti-narcotics operations. The PDEA said law enforcement agencies have also dismantled around 1,400 drug dens and 4 clandestine laboratories. Let's discuss that further with PDEA spokesperson Attorney Joseph Kalulut, now joining us via Zoom. Welcome to Morning Matters, Attorney.
Hi, good morning, Gretch. Good morning to the viewers of Morning Matters.
Okay, 60 billion pesos worth of drugs seized under the Marcos administration. Can you give us the context behind this number? What were the major operations that led to this seizure?
Well, these were consolidated reports coming from different law enforcement agencies and together with PDEA. And these were operations that were conducted beginning July 1, 2022 up to April 30 of this year. So we conducted around
Attorney, you're coming in a little bit choppy.
107,000 TV
All right, there you
video.
go.
Am I clear right now? Yeah.
Yeah, medyo mas okay na po. Oo.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, hello.
Okay. So with that, the 107,000 anti-drug operator. Can you hear me?
A little bit choppy pa rin. But go ahead. We can try.
Yeah. How about this? Is it clear enough?
Yes, better.
Okay. So the 107,000 anti-drug operations resulted to the arrest of around 145,000 drug personalities. And if you remember, there were several anti-drug operations that were conducted during this period. Most recently was the one at North Sagaray, Bulacan, that resulted to the arrest of 3 individuals and confiscation of around 30 kilograms of suspected shabu.
I wanted to get the more insight on this. No, is this a higher number? I mean, as compared to the Duterte administration, how do we view these numbers? Mas marami po ba tayo nahuhuli ngayon?
If you're going to compare the number of operations with that of the previous administration, there were more operations conducted before for the same period. However, if we are going to look at the dismantled clandestine laboratories, there are also more clandestine drug laboratories that were dismantled before, covering the same period, but with regard to the volume or the value of dangerous drugs confiscated, mas marami po ngayon as compared to the previous administration. For the same period, we confiscated around 60 billion pesos worth of dangerous drugs. If you're going to compare that with the previous administration, that's around 32 billion pesos only.
What led to the changes to that significant increase in confiscations?
There's the number of volume of confiscated dangerous drugs. Like, for example, for shabu, for the same period, for today, we confiscated around 7,700 kilograms of shabu. You compare that with the previous administration, that's only around 4,100 kilograms of suspected shabu. Same is true also with ecstasy. We have a lot of confiscated ecstasy pills that's amounting to 136,000 pieces. of ecstasy. You compare that with the previous administration, that's around 24,000 confiscated ecstasy pills.
Medyo malaki-laki po yung difference, no? Dahil po ba yan sa mas maraming nakakapasok na droga ngayon?
Hindi naman po sa mas marami nakakapasok, but we concentrated more on the high impact operations. We also concentrated more on going after the big time drug syndicates. So looking at the numbers, kaya kung mas marami yung mga nakuha nating suspected shabu. At the same time, we also intensified our activity anti-illegal drug operations in our airports. So that's why we were able to confiscate more ecstasy pills compared to the previous administration.
Airports, paano po nakakalusot sa airport yun? Saan po
They-
dinadaan?
Yeah, they tried to bring it in through mail and parcel.
Yung ano po, yung baggage, no?
Yeah, packages, mail, parcels. These are some ways wherein they try to smuggle in these dangerous drugs.
But you also mentioned a while ago that there were 1,400 drug dens dismantled in 4 clandestine laboratories. Are there drug hotspots in the country that you're seeing here? Or is there a trend kung saan po nakakapuslit ito, saan po madalas dinadala, saan niyo po nahahanap yung mga laboratory na yan?
With regard to laboratories, these are all within the nearby NCR. NCR, and recently, meron ho tayo dun sa may malapit sa NCR, that's in Rizal.
Sa mga bahay po ba ito?
Yes. They try to conceal this in exclusive subdivisions para hindi sana matuntun ng mga operatiba, because when we try to get in exclusive subdivisions, we know that there are strict security policies.
Okay. Attorney, I wanted to get your thoughts on the, I guess, the thing that is being said against the Marcos administration that ngayon talamak daw ang droga ever since umupo na si PBBM, nawala si President Duterte, ngayon umiikot na ulit, nawawala na yung takot nitong mga drug pusher na ito, ng mga big-time drug syndicates. Tama po ba yun? What are your thoughts on that and with the numbers that you're seeing?
Well, we do not think that talamak ang droga. We just try to intensify the operations, and we would like to take note that we also heightened the drug demand reduction activities also of the agency. So ibig sabihin ho niyan, marami rin tayong mga lectures na ginagawa sa mga barangay. We also went to communities to remind the members of the communities about the ill effects of dangerous drugs. Ngayon, yung sinasabi nilang talamak dahil marami na raw, we would like to debunk that. Marami lang kasi mga confiscations so ngayon as compared to the previous administration.
How about the numbers of drug war deaths? I mean, there was a Human Rights Watch report in 2023 that said that these deaths continue even under the Marcos administration. And even a researcher from the University of the Philippines, Joel Ariate, observed that 1 Filipino is getting killed each day in the ongoing drug war. Is this true?
No. We would like to debunk that. Because if you look at the numbers, the deaths as compared to the previous administration significantly dropped. It's around 95%. So hindi totoo yung sinasabi nila na every day there's 1 death regarding anti-drug operations. We do not have any reports about 1 death every day.
Dahil ang criticism po ay even if the president has said that extermination is never a part of his drug war, he has not held officials accountable. Those who, or rather no legal action was taken against officials of the previous administration despite new evidence of abuses. What would you have to say to that?
But the law enforcement agencies would act on it as long as we have reports or they are reported deaths na sinabi o sinumbong sa atin. That's time that we will act up on it. Since wala naman na kami natatanggap, wala ko tayong maaaring aksyonan.
Okay, and then what happens now to the confiscations of the 60 billion pesos worth of drugs? Saan po ito dinadala pagkatapos ma-confiscate?
We are waiting for court orders for them to be destroyed. Actually, tomorrow we will be having our destruction of dangerous drugs. So there are several media outfits who would be invited to witness yung destruction ho ng dangerous drugs. So I do not yet have the exact figures, but that's around 1 ton or more of dangerous drugs to be destroyed tomorrow.
Give us a picture of how difficult it is to stop the flow of drugs in the country. I mean, if people can get smuggled in and out, nakakaalis po, no? Via ports, via the south, meron po mga daanan doon. Pagdating naman po sa droga, gaano kahirap sugpuin o tapusin yung pagdaloy ng droga dito sa Pilipinas?
We have a very vast coastline, so napakahirap po bantayan yan. Kung makikita naman natin sa mapa, napapaligiran po tayo ng katubigan, ng karagatan. And we are always partnering with our Coast Guard, our Philippine Navy, our maritime group, for us to conduct security measures within that coastline. Aside from that, we also have the mail and parcels. They try to smuggle dangerous drugs through our airports also, through luggages.
But most of the time, this
partnership.
is coming from which country, if it comes from the outside?
When we talk about Shabu, this is coming from the Golden Triangle. So that's Burma. We have also Thailand, Myanmar, Laos. So dun sa area na yun.
All right. The Marcos administration, as mentioned, has signaled a shift towards a more human rights-based approach, kind of drug war. How are we moving it concretely into that?
Yes, we established regional public assistance desks. So members of the communities, especially those who are involved into illegal drugs, yung mga users so natin, they can go to the nearest PDEA regional office to get assistance. Anong ginagawa po natin dyan? We assist these individuals to file petitions in court for them to undergo rehabilitation. That is one of the steps conducted by the Marcos administration to help when it comes to humane approach and to also assist the users for them to undergo rehabilitation.
Do we have enough rehabilitation centers now?
Yes, we have enough rehabilitation centers in the country. In fact, yung sa Nueva Ecija, hindi pa fully occupied yan eh. So we have a lot of rehabilitation centers, and not all of these individuals need to undergo intensified rehabilitation because some can just undergo counseling. So meron ho tayong mga outpatient users.
Okay. You mentioned a while ago that the difference here with the approach is that you are going for more big-time drug syndicates. Meron din po ba kayong nakikitang mga parang pattern or katulad nung previous administration, meron silang mga matrices, ano? Kayo rin po ba ay may ganun? At saan po or sino-sino po ang parte nun?
Yes, we have a matrix. We have matrices. That's why the several operations being conducted right now, magkakakonek po yung iba dyan because of our intelligence operations. With regard to the persons involved, we cannot divulge it right now since we are still conducting follow-up operations for the other operations that we held the past months.
Maiilan lang po bang major supplier sa Pilipinas or talagang marami ito?
We cannot divulge that right now, but there are some. There are also some foreign individuals involved.
Could this also be linked to POGOs, the Opogo operations in the past?
We are looking into that since there are some or there are several Chinese individuals involved, so we are also trying to look into that matter.
How about the recent kidnappings? Is that also linked to the drug war and to these syndicates?
With regard to kidnappings, we do not see any connection between PIDEA operations and kidnapping. So probably that might be related to some POGO traders.
And in the recent elections, meron po bang link to some people in power? O may nakikita po ba kayong ganon na anggulo?
For now, none. However, there are some, let us say, Mayor-elect Kerwin Espinosa, who publicly declared that he was once involved in dangerous drugs. So we all know that he won during the last elections. But we would just like to remind every individual that Republic Act 9165 or the law, the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs, applies to all. So regardless if you're an elected official or not.
And how do you enforce the strict hand of the law without breaking the limits? The former president always said na yun lang yung paraan na nakikita niya para matakot itong mga drug pusher na ito. Paano natin sinisiguro na ganun pa rin ang pamamalakad sa ngayon while still being humane?
Well, as the president said, we should respect human rights. And one of these is the strict implementation or strict use of the body-worn camera, especially during the implementation of searches. This would ensure that the operation is legitimate, the evidence that were confiscated or seized, the integrity would be secured. So this is one of the measures being implemented by the agency.
Okay, we hope that we do get down to the bottom of those links in terms of the drug war. Sana malaman din po namin sa media no when you do have those successful operations. In the meantime, maraming salamat po for giving us more details into that. We have PIDEA spokesperson attorney Joseph Kalulut.
Thank you, guys. Morning.
Stay tuned. Morning Matters will be back right after a short break. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Vice President Sara Duterte reveals she wants her brother, Representative Pulong Duterte, to run for House Speaker. Duterte shared that she even suggested it to him directly, though he has yet to respond. She said her brother may still be weighing his chances of winning the speakership. The Vice President also advised him that if he loses, he should consider taking the minority leader role instead. However, she clarified she has no official candidate for Speaker or Senate President.
Sinabihan ko si Congressman Pulong. Sabi ko sa kanya, baka gusto mo lumaban ng speaker. Hindi man siya sumagot. Hindi siya sumagot. Iniisip din niya siguro yung chances niya na manalo. Sinabi ko sa kanya, kung hindi ka manalo ng speaker, then kunin mo yung minority. Diba? But wala pa siyang sagot.
President Bongbong Marcos says he expected different election results, but he insists it is time to set politics aside. Here is a report.
Of the 6 senators who won under Alyansa para sa Bagong Pilipinas, only one attended the Thanksgiving party held on May 17 at their headquarters in Mandaluyong. Only Senator Lito Lapid showed up. He expressed his gratitude to everyone. President Bongbong Marcos was also present during the event. He openly admitted that he had hoped for better election results, but insisted that now is the time to put politics aside for the good of the nation.
Wish we had better results, but we live to fight another day. Now it's time, I think, to put all the politics aside. It's time to put all of the issues that were raised during election.
He emphasized that the focus should now shift to critical issues like education, agriculture, and the urgent need to lower food prices, especially with only 3 years left in his term.
Sana naman, ako lagi kong binibilang ang araw na natitira sa term ko at kailangan matapos natin yung mga nasiguran natin.
The president also expressed his appreciation to the media for providing candidates with a platform to broadcast their messages.
Alam namin na napaka-importante ng inyong ginagawa. The media sector of our campaign was very successful, and I think that we were able to put out and occupy the narrative space very, very well, as a matter of fact. So that is what I would like to thank all of you.
President Bongbong Marcos has signed a law amending the Motorcycle Crime Prevention Act. The new law slashes fines for violations from as high as 50,000 pesos to just 5,000 pesos. Riders caught without number plates will now face a lighter penalty, while no seizure can be made if the owner can show proof of registration. Under the new amendments, riders also no longer need to install front license plates, a move welcomed by some groups. For one, Motorcycle Philippines Federation Director Atoy Santa Cruz said the original law was a safety risk.
Bakit namin na-post? Because of sa safety. Kung merong plaka sa harapan na malaki, tapos naging windbreaker yan, lilipad yung plaka niyan eh. Either do sa mga katabi mo or do sa rider.
Let's talk about the amended Motorcycle Crime Prevention Act with Motorcycle Philippines Federation Director Atoy Santa Cruz, who joins us on the line. Sir, welcome to Morning Matters.
Hi, good morning, Gretchen. Good morning, sa nakikinig.
Okay, maaari niyo po bang ipaliwanag sa amin itong safety issue dito sa mga license plates kapag meron po siya sa harapan?
Yung kasi yan, alam mo, talagang ang Motorcycle Philippines, kinontest namin noon pa yan. Nung pinaliwanag namin sa author, kay Senator Gordon, in-explain namin, kanyayaan, ang nangyari dyan, pinayagan na RFID ang harapan or decal. Kasi sa safety issue niyan, pagka yung naging windbreaker yung plate number sa harapan, lumipad, tumama sa rider, delikado. In-explain namin ngayon. Pero nakalimutan yung mga penalties na malaki.
Okay, I understand that the Motorcycle Crime Prevention Act is meant to, as the name of the law says, curb crimes using motorcycles. How does lighter penalties achieve that?
yung alam mo, Gretchen, explain lang namin, yung pinipilit namin beforehand, yung malaking plate number, meron kami nakitang crime, wala naman kami pagre-reportan. Kaya pinipilit namin, kung po pwede, i-enhance na lang yung 4-digit number kasi 80% halos ng Pilipino may cellphone eh. Kung may nakitang crime, magre-report kami kung saan. Yan ang pa namin.
Hotline po
Yun
ang inyong request.
Oo.
Oo.
Oo, yung 4-digit or mag-open na lang sila sa kwan. Yung mga ginagawa ng ibang bansa like Taiwan, Singapore. 4-digit number ito, even yung US, yung sa 911.
Dahil ngayon, sa 911 po?
Oo. Yung 911, kamukha, ito example ko lang sa'yo, no? Naging kwan nga namin ni Senator Soto noon. Halimbawa, may nangyari kami sa Senate noon, in-example ko sa kanya. Anong number ng pulis ang tatawagan namin? Yun ang kinanamin nga, mas effective sa amin kasi hindi naman doble plaka yung 11235 eh. It's crime prevention. Paano yung na-prevent yung crime? Nakapamaril na yung tao, tsaka ka lang magre-report ng number. Diba?
Oo nga po eh. Kaya nga po, yun nga po yung tanong ko, no? Paano po nakakatulong yung lighter penalties sa pag-deter ng crime?
Oo, yun ang namin eh. Nagiging discussion namin yan. Well, nagpapasalamat na kami kay Senator JP kasi inamend na yan eh. Yung binabaan na yung mga penalties. Kasi naging problema naman namin dyan sa penalties. Let's say, wala kang plate number. Ang penalty mo is 50,000. No? Ang nangyayari, pag nagkaroon ng checkpoint, mamili ka eh. Nag-checkpoint yung, let's say, may checkpoint, wala kang plaka, mamili ka, 5,000 o 50,000. So, source of corruption pa.
Dahil ganun po kabigat yun. So ngayon, this will incentivize the motorcycle riders to get registered easier. Yung plaka po ba, go ahead, sir.
Yung ang isa lang ng namin dyan, para huwag din magamit yung kwan. Earlier, pag nagbenta ka ng motor, seller ka, i-report mo agad sa LTO na ang bumili sa'yo para yung nakabili, i-report naman niya agad sa LTO na nasa kanya ng pangalan yun. Transfer niya agad. Kasi lalo din, magkakaroon tayo ng no contact apprehension. Ang nape-penalize, yung mga dating seller.
Dahil, ano po ba ang kalakaran sa ngayon? No? Marami po bang hindi naka-register? Dahil alam po natin, ang motor, kung saan-saan po binibenta yan, na kahit sa barangay, no?
Marami. Marami talaga. Yun ang namin.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Isa pang kinuha namin dyan, no, marami talaga na yung mga na babay and sell. Ang dami hindi nila tinatransfer ang pangalan, kanya nahuhuli pa rin, yung pa rin unang owner. So gusto namin i-transfer earlier. Bigyan kita ng sample, yung pinatay sa LTO na isang director yata or what, binaril. Alam mo, yung nakuhang plaka, yung seller. Kaya pinuntahan nung mga investigador, yung seller. Nabuti na lang, yung seller, alam pa niya telephone number nung binentahan niya. Yun, tumawag sa kanya nahuli yun. Doon.
Okay, so stricter regulation and also, I guess, maybe makakatulong din po yung mga mobile registration for motorcycles ng LTO. Yung pagpunta sa mga barangay. Okay.
Kasi marami tayong batas kailangan pag-aralan mabuti. Yun lang. Basta kami, ang hiling namin, 4-digit number na madali kami mag-report ng crime. Ang daming motorcycle rider na gustong tumulong. Kanya lang, saan kami tatawag? Yun ang question namin.
Alright, maraming salamat po for weighing in on that issue. Sana nga po matupad po yung 4-digit number na hinihingi po ninyo para mas mapabilis and we live up to the spirit of the law, which is to prevent crime. That was Motorcycle Philippines Federation Director Atoy Santa Cruz. Pope Leo XIV has been officially installed as the 267th pontiff of the Roman Catholic Church at a mass in Vatican on Sunday. Crowds crammed the square and surrounding streets in the biggest gathering since the funeral of Leo's predecessor, Pope Francis. He received the pallium and a fisherman's ring, the traditional papal regalia. The ring, which symbolizes the Pope's authority, was placed on Leo's finger by Filipino Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. Tagle was considered among the leading papabilis, or those thought to be likely candidates for the papacy. In an interview with Vatican News, Tagle said he found the attention he has been receiving rather unsettling. The cardinal added that he tried to muster spiritual and human strength by meditating a lot on the words of the Apostolic Constitution. Meanwhile, Filipino mountaineer Rick Rabe braves the heights of Mount Everest. Rabe successfully reached the world's highest peak on Thursday, as announced by his wife on Facebook. He becomes the first Filipino to reach the summit in nearly 2 decades since the last recorded Filipino ascent. Rabe hails from Cotabato City. I think apart from Rick, we also have 2 other Filipinos who have successfully climbed Mount Everest, but we do mourn the passing of PJ who died in Camp 4 on the way up to the summit. We will get more details on that in the following days, but as mentioned, we hail those who have put the Philippine flag on top of the highest mountain in the world. And that's it for today's episode of Morning Matters. I'm Gretchen Ho. We hope we've given you the right fix to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. Be aware of news, all sides, all the time.